happen here in the first quarter. Suffocating at times.
Alex Caruso on the floor for Oklahoma City. Another one of the big pieces.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Thunder podcast. This is a big one today. We're going to go over pretty much a lot of the trades that led up to the trade deadline, starting from further back up to the deadline that just happened. So we're going to start with the January 15th trade, where Phoenix acquired Nick Richards. The Hornets got Josh Okogie, the 2026 second-round pick, and two 2031 second-round picks.
Yeah, I'll start off about this trade. I thought Nick Richards kind of was the healthier of the two centers that the Hornets had. So Phoenix kind of acquiring this pickup is a little bit better than kind of the recent Lakers pickup that we'll cover a little bit later. I thought this was a little bit more of a consistent pickup. And it was just a position of need considering Nurkic, didn't want to be there any longer.
Yeah, for sure. I also think it's nice to point out that Richards has had some very good games with them. I mean, he's not been absolutely stellar by any means, but he's had good games with them. I mean, he's proven his worth for sure.
Yeah, Richards is a solid center going down the line. Not a big deal here. I'm surprised they gave up 3 seconds because, I mean, I know they got the 3 firsts a few days later, but they're like running out of capital everywhere. So right. I don't really know what the future is there.
Yeah, me neither.
I think it's a great trade for Phoenix. Since joining, Nick Richards has averaged 8.9 points and 10 rebounds a game. So that's all you need from him with, 0.8 blocks as well. So he's definitely contributing very well.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, next, on January 21st, Phoenix acquired a 2025 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and a 2029 first-round pick, in which they gave Utah a 2031 first-round pick.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. The reason I want to talk about this is because the way that the Phoenix are operating is something that the Lakers should have done with the recent pick that they just traded to the Hornets, where it was an unprotected pick. They could have had more assets in the opposite year. So, like, you can't trade back-to-back picks in, like, the same odd or even year. So them doing this gives them a lot more flexibility. And so I thought this was a genius move by Phoenix once again.
Yeah, no, I think you worded that really well. I would definitely agree with that. I think Phoenix really capitalized on this one, and that's back-to-back good trades for them.
Yeah, I still don't understand this one. Since it came out on the 21st, I'm still a little confused. I know that they're getting the least favorable every year, but it's still 3 first-round picks for 1 first. So yeah. I don't know what Utah's thinking there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the reason is Utah gets like an opportunity with the 2031 being unprotected, considering the uncertainty around Phoenix. So like most of the rebuilding teams always want the uncertain teams to kind of give the unprotected pickup in case they end up going, in the top 5 and something wacky happens with the Phoenix Suns at that time. So usually you want it as far out as possible and unprotected. So that way, you have the most likely chance of getting something from them. Yeah. And then on the Phoenix side, they just have the ability to stack some of these picks alongside second rounders, alongside some of their talent to make more acquisitions over the summer. So that's kind of the reasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a very good trade if they used it, which we know now they didn't, but at the time I thought it was solid.
Yeah, sure. I wish they'd used it as well.
If they used it for Jimmy or like they said they were, then
Yep. All right, moving on to February 1st. LA, the Clippers, acquired Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills. Meanwhile, Utah got PJ Tucker, Mo Bamba, a 2030 second-round pick, and cash considerations. Interesting trade, in my opinion, for sure. I mean,
I actually love Drew Eubanks. I think he's a good rotational player. And Tucker and Bamba have shown that like Tucker's done. Bamba has never been even a decent player. And who doesn't love Patty Mills? So I think LA wins this trade.
Yeah. I'll break it down a little bit. This was essentially Utah trying to get a later year second round pick in exchange for LA kind of decreasing their cap situation of getting rid of like Mo Bamba and PJ Tucker.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I think it's just a very irrelevant trade, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially the one we're about to cover. It's yeah.
All right, let's cover the big dog.
Yeah, we'll hit it here. We've already talked about it. Everybody on this planet has talked about it. But February 2nd, Dallas Mavericks acquire Anthony Davis, Max Christie, a 2029 first round pick in cash. Meanwhile, the Lakers acquire Luka, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris, and cash. And then Utah gets Jalen Hood-Schifino, a 2025 second round pick, and another 2025 second round pick. Oh man.
Who wants to go first? That's the real
I
question.
mean,
I guess I could rip off the Band-Aid here.
that's fair.
We've talked about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's how I'm going to break it down. I'm going to break it down by team. I'm going to start with Dallas.
Fair.
Futuristically, worst trade I've ever seen. Still, days after, I still am so mind blown over what they did just so they could win now. I still don't agree with we didn't think we could win now with Luka Doncic, even after going to the finals last year and beating OKC and Minnesota. I guess you could say, they are building some type of a decent team. If Kyrie, could step up to be the number one, but you also have to rely on AD not getting hurt. Christie has seemed to come on a little bit recently, but I still can't give it to them. Lakers balled out in this one, got the future point guard for years down the line. I know it's been reported that it's not a lock that he does sign the extension. But, I mean, why not trade for a top 5 best player in the NBA? Underrated piece, Maxi Kleber. LA doesn't have many shooters left. But if you actually look at their roster, they shoot percentage-wise really, really nice. Hachimura is over 40%. Kleber's a good shooter. I'm forgetting the last guy. Reeves shoots over 40%. So they got some decent shooting now.
Dorian Finney-Smith.
Thank you for adding that. So they got some pretty good shooting to go around Doncic and Braun, and we know we'll get into the center trade later. So, I mean, great trade for them. And then Utah, it just seems like they're kind of building capital with picks. 2 more second-rounders. Jalen Hood-Schifino has been waived already, but, I mean, they just seem to be involved in every trade, just, I guess, getting picks. But, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The way I kind of look at this is Dallas and LA kind of just swapped places. I mean, the Lakers were always they've been given so much crap for not having a future. Well, assuming Luka resigns, they've just secured their future. Meanwhile, Dallas just went to this build now mindset or win now mindset rather than their future. So to me, they just both swapped places. Meanwhile, the Lakers can still contend to potentially win now. I mean, that's just in every way that's wrong for Dallas. And we ended up hearing that Nico was actually talked out of getting an extra first rounder and Dalton Connect. So that's just terrible. I mean, that's awful. If I understand why Dallas fans are going through it.
Yeah. I think everything you guys have said has been really accurate, so I won't repeat it, but I'll go into, I think Max Christie will be the seal of, obviously Luka Doncic is the seal of this trade, but Max Christie will be the underlying, the underrated pickup from this trade, I think.
Yeah.
His debut looked really good, and he's still really young, so I think Dallas did good with that, but outside of that, I'm still scratching my head thinking why they did this.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to add on top of everything here, but I'm going to take it in a whole different direction. It's a little bit time for story time here. If you've ever been in a fantasy league of basketball, soccer, or whatever, there's usually a guy that's a commissioner. And just envision the commissioner talking with the guy that took the number 1 overall pick and pretty much fleecing him without talking to everyone else in the league. And he's the one with the veto power and decides to push the trade through and not let anyone vote on whether this could be vetoed. This is essentially what happened in this trade with Nico. talking silently with just one other team, with no one else able to veto this. Not even the Utah Jazz knew about this. The players that know about this. There was no chance of veto here, and that's kind of what happened.
You know what? I actually want to bring up one more thing. So this trade right here is clear as day to me as Adam Silver trying to get ratings back to where they were. I'm not going to dive way into it, but this was a full-blown Adam Silver masterpiece.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, if there's one thing we can't deny, it's the fact that that got everybody's attention. I mean, you had people who don't know a thing about basketball out talking about the Luka trade. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, we got European soccer players, we got chess players, we got random people in random industries making memes about this trade. And Nico still with a straight face says, "Nah, this was a fair deal for win now." Like, come on, bro.
He's lying to himself.
And I think every NBA fan picked up the phone and called a friend when they saw this.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Article too, straight away.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
I think we all received calls, which was crazy.
Can't remember the last time something like that's happened.
The last time I received a call about a trade was Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James when he went to the Heat.
Yeah.
Those were like the 3 times I've received calls.
Paul George, I think, was the last.
Yeah, I got a call for Paul George, but
that's Lord.
Just, but like,
give me a break.
That's crazy.
My last one was for Alex Caruso. So.
Oh, nice.
Nice. All right. Let's go ahead and move on. So, move on to the February 3rd trade, where Chicago acquired Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and a 2025 second-round pick. Meanwhile, the Kings get Zach LaVine, Sidney Cisco, 2025 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2031 first-round pick, a 2025 second-rounder, 2028 second-rounder, and another 2028 second-rounder. And the Spurs get De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. This is good for everybody but the Bulls. What are the Bulls doing, man?
No, this is good only for the Spurs. I'm going to start off with this trade because I feel very passionate.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so the Spurs absolutely fleeced in this situation. They didn't give a single positional player that was young that they actually utilized within their starting lineup. Didn't give up their prized possession of Stephon Castle that I thought was like that had to be gone in a situation like this when you have a prime player in De'Aaron Fox that's an all-star. And just some trade details on this. This 2025 Charlotte Hornets pick is actually protected. So this is going to end up being 2 seconds after this year. So this wasn't even not even a first rounder in this situation. So they only got 2 firsts that were the only first that's really valuable for the Kings was this 2031. They paired up Zach LaVine, who just had his worst year, next to DeMar and just repaired them together. C. Sissoko ended up getting cut. So they essentially got 5 second rounders, 1 solid first round pick and a trash other first rounder. And then Chicago Bulls, even bigger fleece on their end. They sent out picks to get rid of Zach LaVine, who's having like a resurgence. And then they pick up more guards, another really bad center contract. This was the Zach Collins contract is one of the worst that the Spurs had on their books. And the fact that they gave it to Chicago without giving them picks, ridiculous.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
No, that's terrible. That is really bad.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong here, Savir. I absolutely agree that the Spurs are by far the winners. I just, in comparison, the Kings and the Spurs win significantly more than what the Bulls got here. But I don't hate the Kings concept. I mean, I think picks are picks regardless. Us Thunder fans, we understand that concept that a pick is a pick. Getting a lot of picks there regardless, but I like Zach LaVine. I think he's a pretty good player. I don't necessarily blame that rough season on him and DeMar. I more so blame it on the Bulls because I think that is a poverty franchise right now that is just confused out of their minds. So I mean, I don't love that Malik Monk is going to be their starting point guard. That makes no sense. That's not great. However, I like the trade for them well enough given all the picks that they get, and I like LaVine. But yes, San Antonio above and beyond swept this one. They pulled off the win in Fox's first game. He had like 13 assists. I mean, great addition. I'm actually very excited to see that duo work. But if you're a Bulls fan, oh man, I'm sorry.
I I have to disagree with both. I think everybody wins, to be honest. The Spurs, obviously, De'Aaron Fox pairing him with Wemby and Stephon Castle. Hopefully, he develops into a great player for them. In their mind, not mine, but that's obviously a win for them. Then you go to Sacramento. They get Levine. I'm not the biggest fan of Levine, but they get all of that draft capital. And then you got to look at Chicago, right? There's been no trade market for Zach Levine over the last 2 years. They've been looking. They've constantly been looking, but there's been nothing. They get Herter, they get Collins, they get Jones. I don't even think it's about the players. This is a full reset for Chicago, and it's better than waiting and just sitting and being mid and not getting good draft picks. Like, I like starting the rebuild right away, and the fact that they were able to get rid of Levine, just, it will get them into the lottery and they could fully restart. So I think it's a win for everybody.
Joe, I would be so much more on that train if they got Vucevic traded. The fact that they did not trade him is pathetic. That is horrific work as a GM because they're going to be nearly in the same position with or without Zach LaVine, where they're going to end in this bottom to maybe miss the plan, but odds are they'll make the plan because the bottom of the East is terrible. So they'll make a plan, they'll lose in the first or second round of the plan, and they'll end right back at the end of the lottery. Instead, if you got rid of both LaVine and Vooch, I will listen to it. I agree. You simply won by getting rid of them both. Yep. For me, the fact that they did not get rid of Vooch made this a very unsuccessful trade deadline for them. But I absolutely understand what you're saying because I'm good friends with a Bulls fan who's like, every year this is the same thing. I want to die. Like, this is the worst. And he was so happy when Levine got traded because he was not happy with the return, but happy that it happened. And then they don't trade Vooch.
All right, that's a problem. It's a constant word that I've been using in the last few episodes. I call it purgatory, which is literally just being mid forever. You have to restart. Yeah. And I think they started to do so here. Hopefully they could drop a little bit down in the standings and
we'll see.
And get a higher pick. Yeah, for OKC wise, them getting that 2025 second round pick back is pretty nice because San Antonio had theirs.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Oh,
I really like this.
Actually, sorry. Go ahead.
I really like this for the Kings. Like, obviously the Spurs won, but I think Kings are really close behind because they got Zach LaVine. Because right now they're in no man's land. I mean, they're kind of committing to competing now, but then they can also they got the assets for a rebuild. Yeah. So I think they've set themselves up really good here.
Yeah, I just totally remembered the other part of the trade of why this is such a fleece is San Antonio held on to their current pickup of the Hawks pick and a 2027 Hawks pick. And didn't give either of those away in this situation that was highly coveted for this year. So the fact that they kept all their players, they kept their essential picks, and they're building around Wemby, that's why they won by far against both of the other teams.
Yeah, they did incredible for sure. Okay, moving on to one that kind of pertains to us here a little bit, just something light. On February 3rd, OKC acquires a 2029 second round pick which is Phoenix's pick, and Charlotte gets a 2030 second round pick, which was Denver's pick. Just a good old second round pick swap.
Good old Sam Presti masterclass that we don't know yet, but no, I'm not even going to talk about this.
Something will happen. Yeah, no, there's not much to say really. It's a second round pick swap.
Yeah.
So we can just move on if you guys are cool with that one.
Did any of us mention the fact that we had the 6 picks in 2029 and that's why we're moving this pick to 2030?
No, but that's a great point. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. So we had 6 picks in 29 and we're just kicking the can 1 year. Because there's no way we can use 5 assets in the same year.
Right.
That was the real reason we did this.
Yep. Fair enough. All right. On to February 4th. Dallas acquired Caleb Martin and a 2030 second round pick. Meanwhile, the Sixers get Quentin Grimes and a 2025 second round pick.
I'm very passionate about this one because
Oh,
I
wow.
love
All right.
Quentin Grimes. I think he's a great player. And this was just like twisting the knife in all the Mavericks fans' hearts at this point when Luka had just been traded, and then you go and just downgrade Quentin Grimes, because that's what Caleb Martin is a Quentin Grimes downgrade. And at the time, the Mavericks didn't receive a second, so it was even worse. But now they got the second. It's a slightly better, but Quentin Grimes is better than Caleb Martin, straight up. So I don't know why you're trading. And Quentin Grimes could be used up into the future, but Caleb Martin is older. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. That seems to be an ongoing common thread here with the Mavericks is why did you do that? I mean,
Yeah.
I'll try to make some sense of this. Is like they're just trying to get playoff proven people that have won either in like the Western Conference Finals or have really like stepped up to the plate. That's similar to the thinking of like an Anthony Davis, of even Caleb Martin when he was on the Heat. That's kind of what Nico is thinking. That doesn't mean he's right, but that is what he's thinking.
I think, again, I got to disagree. I think Caleb Martin fits perfectly into what Dallas is trying to do, which is hyper-focus on how to beat Oklahoma City, which is another 3-and-D guard. Martin has had some pretty big playoff games for Miami in the past. I know he's injured right now, but they're just, focusing on matching up with OKC. They're going big, and they're getting wing defenders who could also shoot the three ball. And that's exactly what killed us last year. So I think this is actually a good deal for them, not like the last one.
yeah, that's fair. Okay, well, moving on, we'll go ahead and go to the February 5th trade, which Boston acquired a 2027 second round pick, while Houston acquires Jaden Springer and a 2030 second round pick.
I'll go ahead and say I got nothing for this one.
I can say what kind of happened here is just them swapping their pick stash, kind of probably for reasons of like they had too many picks in those years. So that's essentially what's happening. And then they ended up cutting Jaden Springer. So yeah.
Yep. All right. Another trade on the 5th. OKC acquired Daniel Tice and a 2031 second round pick. And the Pelicans got cash. I mean,
Definitely where were you when this trade happened moment. 100%. Yes.
And as we all know, Daniel has been waived. So,
So rough.
We got a second rounder.
I was so happy when we got Tice, man.
I mean, I think it was Jack had mentioned it earlier when we were all just talking. I mean, we all want AJ Mitchell over Daniel. I mean, at the end of the day, like it's what had to happen. It's unfortunate, but like I get it. It's not crazy at all by any means. It makes sense. So
yeah,
we get Carlson back on the roster. I guess that's a plus.
yeah, that's it. That's a big plus.
yeah. I'll add
Graham,
to. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you go.
All right, I was gonna say the reason we kind of did this pick, I'm understanding what Presti's kind of doing right now is the big three that we have. He's learned from the previous big three of Kevin Durant, Harden, and Russ. The reason we couldn't build around that was we had no asset pool to beef up our bench. And Presti's anticipating with the way the cap space situation is when we're extending Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, alongside the contract that Shea's going to be getting is going to be a huge one. We need as many, even these low end second rounders are going to be so huge for those moments when we're going to be so hamstrung that some of the players aren't even going to be movable because of first apron rules, second apron rules, that these picks are going to be so valuable in those situations. So anything from like 2029 to 2031, that's the reason he's building that stash up for that time.
Good point.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Just filling the bench with the AJ Mitchell type players who can come in straight away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a great move by Presti.
Yep. And even if it's not for AJ Mitchell, it's more for, hey, we need to make a trade or we need to make these small moves here for these veteran pieces at the times we're going to be really contending once they're all locked up, like the big three is locked up. That's what these moves are for. And maybe not even necessarily to get like rookies, but more so if we need to get like one player that we're targeting in free agency or middle of the season, we can go get them no matter what.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm just not even going to try to predict what Presti's going to do, but I just know it's
Yeah.
going to work out in the end. So
Yep. All right. Moving on to another February 5th trade. The Bucks acquire Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin Jr., a 2025 second rounder, and Jericho Sims. The Knicks get DeLon Wright in cash, and the Wizards get Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, and a 2028 first round pick. I'd like to kick off this one here. Um, it's kind of I don't want to say sickening, but it kind of blows my mind that Milwaukee would just ship Chris Middleton like this after all he's done for this team, man. I mean, I understand what they're aiming for. They want the younger player. They want the younger player in Kuzma. Kuzma's not incompetent, but I don't think super highly of him as a player either. I think he's fine. But I just don't love shipping off Middleton. I really don't. I mean, it might be more of an emotional side to me saying that than a logical side, but I just think it's really disgusting that they send him to a team, especially like the Wizards, who are clearly the worst team in the league, or at least one of them. And now, I mean, if he retires after this season, I'm not surprised. I mean, what does he have left? I mean, it's just there's that word again, Joe. They sent him to purgatory. I mean,
yeah,
and it's actually worse. It's just terrible. I feel for Chris Middleton.
yeah, I'd like to just I'll get it over real fast, but I mean, this is ridiculous. What Milwaukee did was trade Middleton, who has good 3-point shooting, good free throw shooting, good defense, for Kyle Kuzma, who is not a great 3-point shooter, not a great defender, not a great free throw shooter. So that just makes no sense at all. The Knicks, I want to talk about them real quick. They must have gotten good news from Mitchell Robinson's doctor. He just met with him a couple days ago. So the fact that they're trading Sims means that they're probably getting Mitchell Robinson back sooner than later. And then a big key in this trade is AJ Johnson. I just watched him against OKC a couple games ago, and I really like that guy. I think Milwaukee's out of their minds. And the problem is that Giannis signed off on this trade. So
That's disrespect.
if it's Giannis, the GM, they got to fix that because this is a terrible trade for them.
Yeah, I like the point by AJ Johnson. I absolutely agree. He's got potential.
Yeah, he's looking really good.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Sending a first round pick as well to the Wizards is pretty crazy, but
It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
They just downgraded. That's all they did.
Yeah.
Kyle Kuzma is not a good he's not a good player.
Yeah, I'm not high on him at all.
I'll add some silver lining, kind of opposing y'all's thoughts. Is my thought on this is I like Kyle Kuzma personally. Obviously on the Wizards, his numbers are down. He's demotivated. He's on the bench sulking. He's saying crazy comments to get traded. If you haven't been following the Wizards too closely, like I have, I guess, he said some wild stuff to get out of there. But generally, like him and most of the other players on there, like their numbers are going to be down unless you're like Jordan Poole or something like that. Even from an efficiency standpoint, he's having like a historically inefficient season. And previously when he was with the Lakers, he's not that efficient of a player, but what you can expect from him is to put the ball in the basket. And that's what the Milwaukee Bucks need desperately. They need another ball handler. And that's mainly the reason he's there is shot creation. And he's going to do that off the dribble. And Chris Middleton was not providing any of that. One of his knees is literally sawdust. And I literally tweeted that.
That's a good point. One of his knees is completely gone. I think Giannis said that he walks like a turtle a few days before he got traded.
That's wild. That's messed up.
I mean,
right.
It's true.
Yeah. All right. We can move on. For our last February 5th trade, we have the Kings acquiring Jonas Valanciunas and the Wizards getting Sidi Sissoko, a 2028 second rounder, and a 2029 second rounder. And this is just crazy. I mean, to me, the value that you get Jonas for here is wild. But my question is like, I'm interested if we're just going to go straight to seeing Sabonis run the four and Jonas starting, or I mean, that's what I would assume is going to happen, which I'm not positive how that will work. I think it's interesting that the Kings are the ones who go after Jonas here, but for that price, I don't blame them.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this trade back into a different one soon, so I'm not gonna say that much. I'm just gonna bring up the word again. The Kings are getting draft picks, but they're also trading for these players that are not gonna help them win championships. Jonas Valanciunas is a good player, but going to Sacramento, it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything.
I think it's a really strange place for him. And I know exactly what you're talking about, Joe, when you say you're going to bring it up later, because I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, great value though. I mean,
phenomenal value. It's crazy that Washington just
the
shipped him
wrong
off
team.
for that.
Just the wrong team.
But,
Jack,
yeah.
is there anything?
Yeah, I think the Wizards gave up too little. Got too little back, but outside of that, I think it's pretty irrelevant in the grand scheme of the NBA.
The only relevance that I can add to this is that Jonas is from the same country as Sabonis. So to have like similar countrymen, they're really building like a friendship team over there. I've seen a lot of Sacramento Kings Twitter has been mentioning like they're going to win a championship through friendship. I'll kind of leave it there. They have DeMar and his other friend, Zach LaVine, and now they have Jonas with Sabonis, and fantastic.
Good for them. Move on.
Yep. All right, going to the first trade on the 6th. This is an interesting one. We got Toronto acquiring Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans getting Bruce Brown Jr., Kelly Olynyk, a 2026 first rounder, and a 2031 second round pick. I don't fully understand this one, to be honest. I think, okay, so now Toronto goes from being bad to a little less bad. And I'm really wondering what New Orleans is doing. I mean, what they're thinking here, because I don't think this season is not on the lack of talent. They've just had injury after injury with Murray, with Zion. I mean, I don't think that's been their problem. I honestly thought looked like a pretty solid roster going into the season, like but that's if Zion's healthy. That's obviously one of the biggest ifs in the entire NBA, but I just don't really understand for either team here. I guess Toronto plans to think that they're getting a little bit better. Ingram's not terribly old, so I get that, but I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it's really an interesting trade. But
I wanna congratulate Toronto on moving from bad to purgatory.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Brandon Ingram is not gonna win you playoff games, and now you're pairing him with Scotty Barnes, R.J. Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickly. So that's the definition of mid everywhere.
Yeah.
Pelicans, I mean, I guess it was time to move on. They did get a first round and a second round pick. So they could use them. They could draft from Indy spot, or they could use it in a trade, hopefully a trade. I always hated Kelly Olynyk. Like every time I see him in a trade, I'm like, why is he even involved? He's just Bruce Brown, decent player, but irrelevant trade.
Yeah, really, really strange.
I think
good.
this trade makes the Toronto Raptors on paper the greatest playing team in NBA history.
Yeah.
All that just to beat Chicago in the play-in.
Yeah.
Lord. I'll kind of talk about this trade from different lens. One is the reason they really traded for Kelly Olynyk in this is they needed a spacing 5-man, and they can go small ball, which is what they've been trying to do. And Ingram with Zion didn't really mesh well because Ingram's kind of a mid-range merchant. They needed someone that could space the floor. And Bruce Brown is just, he's just a key kind of guy. Like championship rosters always need guys like him. And then they got some, draft capital out of this. And then from the Toronto side with Brandon Ingram, he's going to be injured for most of the season, so it'll still enable them to tank. Next season, they're going to have possibly a top 3 pick added to their roster with the way they're losing right now. So they've really had an unhealthy season as well. That's being really underrated quickly. RJ Barrett has missed a lot of games. So when they're kind of fully healthy, they're going to be back in the purgatory stage, but that's exactly where they want to be. And that's why they made this trade.
It's like these GMs will do anything to stay relevant.
Yeah.
But they don't understand when it's time to just pull it, break it all down and just restart. I promise the 2 years or 3 years of the rebuild will suck, but it'll be way better than just another 10 years in purgatory, man.
I think the problem for like a Canadian only team is they really need to fill the stands compared to like a US based team where, if one of the smaller markets isn't filling the stadium, it's not as big of a deal versus Toronto not filling the stadium. I think that's a little bit different. So that's another reason that they stay in purgatory, but they're also, you'll see, make trades for picks.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, but I would never pay money to go see Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett.
Well, people in Canada do. So.
Yeah, I know.
I suppose.
That's the only basketball they got.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump on to the next one. Another February 6th trade. The Lakers get Mark Williams. Meanwhile, the Hornets get Dalton Knecht, Cam Reddish, a 2031 first and a 2030 first. Oh, interesting. I don't get me wrong. I really like, obviously, Lakers need the center. I really like the Mark Williams going after him. He's averaging nearly 20 on the season. He's young, ridiculous standing reach, higher than Wemby's, which is just out. I mean, that's crazy. But I do think they give up a little much here. I don't like giving up Dalton, and I don't like giving up 2 first rounders. I just don't fully understand giving up that much when there were other centers available that they could have gone after who I think potentially provided more assurance than Mark. I mean, so it'll be interesting to see. I like that they got him, but if I'm a Lakers fan, I am feeling like we gave up a little much.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a all-in move for LeBron and Luka to try to win this year or next. I was going to bring up Valanciunas went for 2 second-round picks. The Lakers could have got him for 2 second-round picks and kept Dalton Knecht, who I think is a great prospect, and also keep their first-rounders. Cam Reddish irrelevant. Mark Williams, huge upside. So that's why I kind of like this trade for them. But if he stays injury-prone like he has been and giving up Dalton, who could blossom into a pretty good player, and then giving up the 2 firsts. This is an all-in trade, and we'll see how it works for them. Could go either way.
Agreed.
Yeah, building off that injury for Mark Williams, he's missed 65% of his NBA career, so not the best. I think the Hornets fleeced, in my opinion. I think Dalton Knecht is great for them, and I'm not a fan of Mark Williams, and I don't think he'll be the answer for the Lakers, although Luka Doncic will make him better. So it will appear that he took a leap when he moved, but yeah,
fair enough.
What I'll add about this is 2 things. This is, instead of La GM, this is La Luka GM. I don't even know how to phrase that.
That
but
works. That works.
Yeah, but Luka really influenced this trade. He probably went to the front office and said, you guys want to keep me long term? What I want is Derek Lively 2.0. Don't care what you have to give up for him. Go get him right now. I want to contend this year. I want to, shove it to the Mavs that you guys traded me. I want to contend with LeBron for these next 2 seasons. We'll figure it out later. The big problem with this trade from a pick standpoint is what I was mentioning earlier, where Phoenix traded, for 3 low-level picks to open up a lot of flexibility of not having any draft capital right now. For the next 8 years, the Los Angeles Lakers cannot trade a single pick. They've truly messed up in that regard, unless they really can figure out some way to trade LeBron as their really only option. I think this was a pretty big mess up.
Yeah, and I just want to add, you're right. I think Luka and possibly even LeBron went out and sought for Mark Williams, who, if he is healthy, he could be a pretty good player. I mean, he's already averaging 20 points he's averaging 17 and 9.
He's averaging 17 and about close to 10.
10, which is a good player, and those stats will buff playing with Luka and LeBron. But they just played Mark Williams, and AD dropped 44 points on his head. I don't know.
It's interesting
50-50.
for sure. Yeah, it really could go either way. So
I don't believe in guys like Mark Williams, Clint Capella type of guys. That type of prototype in the NBA is dying off slowly. If you don't have a 3-point line shot or even a mid range shot, or like you're not some sort of fantastic passer like Hartenstein, you're really not going to be useful. If you can't do dribble handoffs and all you're doing is rim running, that's not much value in my opinion. That's not enough versatility for just the center position that you need in this NBA.
I completely agree with that. Just one more thing, and we can move on. Like, you're exactly right. Capella has been washed out of the league because the league's evolving, and now you have a guy who's Capella but way more athletic, in my opinion. But if he gets injured, the athleticism is gone, right? So, I mean, this is a huge risk, high reward trade for Los Angeles.
for sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, jumping on to the next one. Another February 6th trade. The Sixers acquire Jared Butler, a 2027 second round pick, a 2028 second round pick, a 2030 second round pick, and another 2030 second round pick. And the Wizards get Reggie Jackson and a 2026 first round pick.
Move on.
Yeah, we're moving on. I got nothing.
Yeah,
I have had something for all these other trades. When I saw this trade, I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what I said, but I said something about this, and it was not good.
Yeah. All right. Another 6th pick, February 6th. Miami gets Davion Mitchell, and the Raptors get PJ Tucker, a second round pick, and cash. I saw a really funny video of some guy on TikTok, a Miami fan, making this video about getting Donovan Mitchell, and he was freaking out about it.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Just made me chuckle. But honestly, I don't hate. I mean, it's a pretty useless trade. I don't think it does anything. However, I don't hate getting Davion Mitchell. I do like the presence he brings. He's a good defender. He's not a bad player by any means. He's quick. I am Joe, you talked about not liking Kelly Olynyk. I think PJ Tucker is absolutely garbage. I have always been against PJ Tucker. So the team trading away PJ Tucker is winning the trade, in my opinion.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed Davion Mitchell at Baylor, and I thought he was going to come into the league and be a bit better than what he has been. I guess he's a bit smaller, so it hasn't worked out as much. But he's still young. I think Miami's always a great place to develop players, so win for Miami. I mean, they're not giving up anything, and why not?
He's honestly just a really good, like, he's just made to be a backup, and like no amount of shooting or, upskilling him can kind of make up for the height. Yeah. But he's great in his role of sitting in the corner, hitting knockdown shots, and defending on the other end and not being, a negative asset. So he's solid.
For the NBA. Yeah,
for sure.
All right, are we moving on?
Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, I got nothing.
What am I looking at here?
Yeah, I was gonna say. All right, February 6th, the Bucks acquire to be determined, and the Spurs get Patrick Baldwin Jr. in cash. I
guess my opinion will be to be determined. So
I mean, there's literally nothing we can say about that. So, all right, February 6th, the Suns get Cody Martin, Vasilije Micic, and a 2026 second rounder, while the Hornets get Yusuf Nurkic and a 2026 first round pick. I mean, I think this is just Charlotte trying to replace the Mark Williams. I mean, getting a big back. Meanwhile, they're really not giving up anything of value, to be honest. It's kind of insane that they're getting the first here. I mean, Cody Martin's fine, but I don't think Nurkic is some absolute beast. It was more so Phoenix wanting to get rid of him. They have had issues all season with him, so I'm not surprised this happened. But let's not act like Charlotte just became some good team. I mean, this doesn't make them any better. It's just getting the center they need.
I like the trade for Charlotte. Getting the first round pick, I'm not even going to bring up Nurkic, honestly. I don't care about their team at all. Getting the first round pick is nice. Cody Martin is not Caleb Martin. I think Phoenix thought that he was, and that's why they made this deal, because that's my only explanation. Getting Cody Martin, Micic, who's an OKC legend, and a second-round pick. I mean, this team continues to make the worst trades ever. They're putting themselves in the worst spots ever. They don't even have draft picks, and they're giving up a 2026 first-rounder.
Well,
They did
that's
acquire the 3, but
yeah, they acquired the 3 so they could open up this 2026 to be used to move Yusuf Nurkic, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to move him, and he was really saying crazy stuff in his locker room as well.
yeah.
So they really needed to move him. That's kind of why they made the trade previous. That's all I got.
It's just with Phoenix, like this. Once KD and Beal are done, they have Book, but they're gonna fall bad, and they're gonna have to rebuild as well. And they're kind of just prolonging it at this point too. I don't think they're close to being a contender. Everyone who thinks they are like to say, "Oh, well, they have 3 scorers who you just don't know. They could all drop 40 at once." No, they're not going to. So
Yeah.
bad trade.
Fair enough.
Jack, you got anything for this?
I hate it, but for both sides.
Yeah, it's just
I
crazy.
actually like it from the Charlotte perspective, because you get Nurkic, who is disgruntled, and Nurkic is not bad if they come into the next season with a healthier roster with like Brandon Miller and Melo back. With Yusuf Nurkic, that's solid.
Yeah, I don't know.
Considering that they gave up 2 centers like Nick Richards and Mark Williams, like I think that's really solid to have Yusuf Nurkic.
I think the first round pick is nice to have too.
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
too.
All right, another February 6th, the Hawks get Karis LeVert, George Niang, 3 second-round picks, a 2026 first-rounder, and a 2028 first-rounder, and Cleveland gets DeAndre Hunter. I wish he did not go here. That makes Cleveland, in my opinion, that is exactly what Cleveland could have used. That's dangerous. That's a great trade for them. I mean, definitely had to give up what he's worth. I really do think they gave up a good amount with all the draft capital. I'm an Iowa State fan, and I can admit that George Niang is just not good.
He's the worst,
George Niang
dude.
is just terrible. he shot chucks. His nickname is the minivan. Like, he's literally built like a YMCA player. Like, he's not that good. I mean, I love the guy to death, and then Karis LeVert, all right, he'll give you a good game every 5 games. I just don't. I'm surprised Atlanta did this for the player side of it, but the capital, that's a lot of draft capital. But DeAndre Hunter on Cleveland, that's scary. That's a good work out of them.
Yeah, I guess I'll go here. Super confused on where Atlanta's going in the future. They've been another one of those teams that have just been stuck in the middle, and they continue to lose players and not add much back. I think Karis LeVert's a solid player. Niang's terrible. I guess the first round picks are nice to get, but I feel like I think this offseason is the time they're going to move on from Trey. I feel like it's been hinted at forever, but they just haven't done it. They've kind of just been hovering at like 8, 9 seed every year. For Cleveland, I'm going to say I don't love it. They gave a haul for DeAndre Hunter, who's not having a great year. We all know he's a good 3-and-D player. I was thinking for Cleveland, they needed a more like Cam Johnson type player who could consistently knock down shots, and he's also a good defender as well. But I don't think this pushes them over Boston at all. We've seen Boston kill them every time they've played them during this regular season, and I don't think this makes them jump over Boston. I don't even think it brings them even closer. I think they're the same team, to be honest.
I think it definitely brings them closer. I mean, Hunter's averaging 19. He's shooting 39% from 3. I mean, he is shooting the ball very well. I really think, I mean, I'm not trying to start anything, but I just disagree with that. I think Hunter's having a great season. I mean, I like DeAndre Hunter a lot. I think Cleveland getting him. I agree they are not better than the Celtics. You're right. Every time they play each other, it doesn't look like a great game. However, I just like Hunter for him. I really do. I mean, I don't want to take up all the talk time here. Someone else goes, but yeah, someone else can.
I'll go ahead and I'll say getting DeAndre Hunter is solid. It's like a underrated pickup because he's had a little bit of injuries and he's kind of ramping up right now. So he'll be much better going into the playoffs, considering if he stays healthy. What they gave up for him seems like a lot, but all you can do in situations like this when you're near contention or you feel like you can really win it that year is go for it. Unless you're in a situation like the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is really special, which is different, where we can do that multiple years. But Cleveland feels like this is one of their years where they can really contend. And so it's better than sitting back. So I prefer it in that sense. Of course, there's better players or talented players that they could have gotten, but by no means is DeAndre Hunter a bad option from just a scoring output perspective. And they kind of needed that.
Yeah. I found it interesting to see that the Hawks would move on from DeAndre Hunter. I thought I didn't think they'd make a move like this, which kind of seems like a step backwards in terms of competing. Because I thought they were really hitting a stride this year. They got Dyson Daniels in that fleece of a trade. So I thought they were going to build off that. But I think, Joe, you're right. This might be the offseason where trade moves on.
Yeah.
And then they go even younger.
It's an interesting time for them to do this because, you're right as well. They were playing pretty decent basketball. Every time I looked at them, they were competing. If they were losing, they were still a great game. I'm looking at Hunter here. I mean, I don't know. You guys seem to like him a little bit more than I do. 57 games played last year, 67 the year before, 53 the year before that, 23. Like, he's not a healthy guy ever. He's having the best three-point shooting season that he's had. He's shooting 39%. That made dip going to Cleveland. It's a different offense compared to Atlanta. Atlanta's been free all year because that's how they play. I don't know. I don't like how much they gave up for DeAndre Hunter, to be honest, because I don't know how long DeAndre Hunter will be a Cleveland Cavalier.
That's fair.
The other thing I'll add about Atlanta right before we head off to the next trade is they don't have a 2025 pick. So the fact that they're not trying to compete as high as they possibly could doesn't make sense. And I think that's where they're kind of indicating towards Trae Young's camp of, hey, we're probably going to move you. Because they also have some cap situations and hurdles that they're trying to navigate. And that's why they've let a lot of guys go. So, yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Another February 6th. The Hawks acquire Terrence Mann and Bones Highland, as well as 3 second-round picks, while the Clippers get Bogdan Bogdanovic. I like this for the Clippers. I do. I think Bogdan is a very good shooter to add to your team. I think a healthy Clippers is a lot scarier than people are giving them credit for, and they just added a incredibly consistent shooter to come off the bench. I think Bones Highland, I don't know if I'm going to get some hate from this. I think he's one of those guys that the media just absolutely loves saying, oh, he could be so good. He's so shifty. And then he never plays and he's not that good. Like, I just don't really have, there's potential there, maybe, but I just don't feel like it's ever going to break through, even if he was getting a lot of minutes. Now, Terrence Mann is a kind of just a slightly exaggerated version of that. I think he's a little bit better and he gets a little more minutes, but same thing. He's proven himself. He had that huge game a couple years ago in the playoffs. That was huge. I just don't know. I don't know. I just don't really feel crazy about him. Meanwhile, I think the Clippers, the 3 second rounders is a bit surprising. I mean, second rounders are second rounders. That's it feels like they just threw that in there to like ensure that they get him. But I like Bogdan for the Clippers. I really, really do.
Yeah, I agree. Really good trade for LA. Bogdanovich has been a really good player alongside Trae for a little while now. I don't think giving up Terrence Mann means anything to them. Bones Highland doesn't mean anything to them. I was a bit confused as to what happened with Bones Highland because he came into the league, was playing decent, got moved to Denver. Just I don't know what happened to him, but I mean irrelevant at this point. Yeah, good trade for LA.
What I'll say is, I think LA is banking on lack of depth and probably going to a shortened roster lineup going into the playoffs, probably like an 8-man lineup, and they just want more experienced guys, similar to what the Mavericks are building in terms of thinking win now. Like the Clippers have really invested into the Kawhi experiment, same as what kind of the Mavs are doing in terms of mindset. Both these clubs have a similar mindset of we're going to win now. We're always going to bring in win now type of players, even if it's not the right trade. Terrence Mann is going to be great for Atlanta from the sense they need shot creators with letting DeAndre Hunter go. Trae Mann, when he sits, they didn't have anyone else other than DeAndre Hunter kind of doing some shot creation. So this was kind of a need on their end as well.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
Clippers might be stacked offensively. We'll see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was a good grab for them. But
We can skip this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just skip that one.
All right, no worries. Okay, another February 6th. The Clippers get Marion Beauchamp, and the Bucks get Kevin Porter Jr. Anybody else can take this one. I really could care less.
I can start. I know about Marjan from a while ago now, like just seeing him as a player. I think he just didn't pan out from Milwaukee, so LA wants to kind of take a shot at him. He's been a developmental type of player. If he doesn't pan out in LA, he'll probably be out of the league. That's kind of the situation here. And Milwaukee, same as Kyle Kuzma, they're kind of shooting high. They're looking at guys that are not having the best seasons, maybe because of fit or coaching. Specifically with Ty Lue, he just didn't want to play Kevin Porter. He'd have crazy games. I'm watching the Clippers. This man's going off, and he's like, yeah, you're done for the fourth, or you're done for the third. So I think Milwaukee saw that, and they were like, okay, the coach clearly doesn't like him, but we'll play him, and this is a high upside pick for them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I guess I could carry off that. Okay. Yeah, so one and done for Marjan. Like, he's a decent prospect, but like Sapir said, if it doesn't work out, it'll probably be out the league. With Milwaukee, I just don't see their vision. Kevin Porter shoots 25% from three this year. I know he could get buckets in bunches sometimes, but I mean, they're just. Is Giannis their best 3-point shooter besides Dame now? Like, and Brook Lopez? Like, they're screwing themselves. I think it's going to be very easy to guard that team, and I just don't understand.
Honestly, I think Milwaukee's panicking a bit. I think they know that they could lose Giannis if they don't pull something out here soon. I think they're starting to hit the panic button. And
they're going to. They're going to. This is ridiculous what they're doing. Even though Giannis is signing off, but he'll be out soon.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, another February 6th pick. The Pacers to be determined, but the Raptors get James Wiseman, who to me, kind of another player that we're just waiting on that ceiling to hit that's not hit yet, which is just crazy to me. I really did like him when he was getting drafted. I mean, I know he played limited games with Memphis because of the whole suspension deal, but I mean, I thought he was going to be a great player, so I've been surprised every year that he's just not done much, but he's fine. I mean, it's not crazy, but interesting traits we don't know what Indiana's getting.
Purgatory.
Yeah, I think this is the first step to leaving the league for James Wiseman, in my opinion.
I would be afraid that's probably correct.
Next.
Yeah, I got nothing, so I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, no worries. All right, another February 6th. The Grizzlies get 2 second-round picks, another 2028 second-round pick, Marvin Bagley III and Johnny Davis. The Kings get Jake LaRavia, and the Wizards get Marcus Smart, Alex Len, Colby Jones, and a 2025 first-round pick.
I'll start by saying no comment.
I'll break it
This
down.
is my first time seeing the full trade.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you go ahead, V.
I could care less.
I can break it down. Essentially, what's happening here is the Grizzlies are trying to extend Jaren Jackson Jr., and they needed to move off of multiple contracts. So that's kind of what they're doing. Marcus Smart was making a lot of money. They gave up a first rounder. That's the main part of this trade. Nothing else really matters in terms of what assets kind of moved around. That was the reason this trade happened.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. I kind of like the Kings grabbing LaRavia. I think Jake LaRavia is a very underrated player. I really do. I think he's can be pretty consistent.
What does that do for Sacramento?
Well, I mean, just talking about from a talent perspective. Like,
no, I know, but I'm trying to get at something. Like, what is it? What does it show you that Sacramento got another decent mid player?
Yeah, another and a forward as well.
Like, I mean, what are we doing, man?
This is really good for the Grizzlies, though, I think.
Yeah. This is
getting rid of Marcus Smart as well.
Yep.
Because he was having a shocker this year.
How is Alex Len still in the league?
I have no idea. But they got Marcus Smart for 2 picks, and they traded him away for 1 first rounder. So
not bad.
Not horrible, but he didn't really pan out because of injuries and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Another February 6th one, the Pistons get Kenyon Martin Jr., a 2027 second-round pick, and a 2031 second-rounder, and the Sixers get cash.
Don't mind this trade for Detroit. Philly's ridiculous. KJ Martin Jr. has been all right. Why not throw him on a young Detroit team and give him like 10 minutes a game, 2 second-round picks, and some cash? Why not?
I feel like that's literally Detroit's motto is why not throw the young guy on the team?
Yeah. I mean, Martin Jr.'s been all right. Like, why not? Yeah, I think he's averaging like 6 points and
Could be
how many
interesting.
assists. I mean, he's not going to do nothing for him, but why not?
Yeah, could be interesting. I mean, especially just for cash. I mean, you're getting 2 second rounders as well
Yeah.
as Martin. I mean, why not? Okay,
Can
well,
I
do
wait? Can
we
I
want
ask you
to
guys what the hell this does for Philly?
they get cash?
They just wanted cash.
Yeah, I don't
How
know.
Also,
much?
they
How
get
much
it.
are they
They
getting?
also get it. I do remember what this does for Philly. This gets them under the luxury tax, which is 170,000 or like 170 million or whatever. So like, there's like limits of 140 is what everyone usually is trying to be between is like 140 to 170. Once you get to like 170, you have to kind of be below that, and so that's what they wanted to do by offloading the contract.
All right, so not bad on either
I
side.
was gonna say, I suppose that makes sense though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, well, we have
And
one more
how?
trade here that actually initially happened on the 5th, but it's been finalized today. So it is the last one added in here. Detroit gets Dennis Schroeder and Lindy Waters. The Warriors get Jimmy Butler. The Heat get Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, a 2025 first round pick, and PJ Tucker. And the Jazz gets Josh Richardson, KJ Martin Jr., and a 2028 second round pick. Big trade here.
KJ's gone already.
Yeah, that's quick.
I know that. I guess I'll start. I really liked the trade for Miami if they were going to keep Schroeder, but they didn't. So I guess adding Wiggins in the first doesn't. They had to get rid of Jimmy, so not
Oh, yeah.
not terrible. Dennis Schroeder is now the journeyman of the NBA. Jimmy and Golden State, Jimmy and Steph, they signed him to a 2-year, $120 million extension. I think that's ridiculous. They're not going to do anything with Jimmy Butler unless he turns up in the playoffs, but I'd like to say those days are past him. And Utah. That's all I got.
And Utah. No, honestly, I don't hate the Curry and Jimmy duo. However, it is not enough to actually win hardly anything. I really think that they could play pretty well together. I think that provides pretty much exactly what Andrew Wiggins was doing, but more consistently and with a much better veteran, just all around, much more mentally prepared player. I do think it's funny that we see Jimmy and Wiggins getting involved in a trade again since back when they were on the Timberwolves together. Jimmy did not like Andrew Wiggins because he claimed that his mentality was poor and that he didn't try enough. So I do think it's kind of funny seeing them involved in a trade and traded for each other. But yeah, I think this does help Golden State a bit and giving Curry a better number 2 guy that's going to help out more. However, the extension is ridiculous. I mean, that's just crazy.
I don't want to cut you off, but
No, you're good.
I meant to say this while I was speaking. This was a panic move by Golden State, in my opinion. I actually think that they were aiming towards KD and thought they were getting close. And then once that got pulled away from them, they were like, oh, shit, we need to get Steph a number 2. Like, he only has a few years left. And, he can't be surrounded by Brandon Podziemski the rest of his career. So they went Jimmy Butler. Meh, I don't
Yeah,
like it.
that wouldn't surprise me if that's what happened there either. But overall, I mean, I don't hate it for Golden State, but it just takes me back to where I was starting with. Well, I mean, okay, so you jump up a couple seeds, maybe. They're still not gonna be able to beat any of the top teams. They're just
Right.
not good enough. So, interesting trade for sure. I don't hate it for Miami. I think Andrew
Yeah.
Wiggins is pretty good, but I definitely agree. Getting rid of Dennis, don't really get that. That one's confusing. And
Yeah.
Miami got PJ Tucker, so they lost.
I
Dennis
think
might
it's
be a
about
little
time Jimmy
underrated.
left.
Yeah, that too.
What?
Miami getting rid of Jimmy in general is probably a win. I mean, just the fact that they were able to get rid of him is worth something.
You can't play him, so it's about
Yeah.
time.
Where's Detroit in this seating right now?
Any return for Jimmy is good.
Yes, the fact that they got a return and still got a first round pick and Wiggins. I mean, that's pretty good value. That's not bad at all.
I mean, Detroit being
And
the
I'm not
seventh
sure.
seed. Sorry, Detroit being the seventh seed, getting Dennis Schroeder as a backup point guard along with Cade isn't a bad idea for them.
Yeah,
Especially with Ivy's injury, yeah.
Yeah.
true.
Because Schroeder's on an expiring contract, I believe. So
Could be interesting then.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I'll what I'll say about this is um the reason Detroit acquired Lindy and even Dennis, who are decently valuable in the sense like they can just put the ball in the basket, was because Miami and Golden State were just so desperate to make either of these trades happen. I believe Miami long and short term won this deal compared to Golden State getting Jimmy. I just don't. I mean, Jimmy's a great shot creator. They definitely needed another one. He's like I think paint touches. Uh, he's leading. I mean, he's better than what they've had in the past compared to Andrew Wiggins. He's a better passer, scorer, shooter, whatever you want to say compared to Andrew Wiggins, especially come playoff time. So he's beneficial in that sense. It just gives them a chance, and that's what most teams make moves for, even if it's not like to get a championship. They're just trying to fill the stadium with fans. And then Miami kind of made out really well with this 2025 that could end up being a 2027 unprotected. Unprotecteds are like diamonds compared to protected picks. So that's, I think, huge for them. And then Utah's been making some solid deals. The thing that I'm really confused about Utah is they've taken on a lot of 10 to 20 million dollar contracts with second rounders, and I'm assuming that Utah will be doing this similar pick stash for another year, considering they didn't sell again and really try to tank. So I'm assuming they're going to do a lot more draft acquisition this summer and next trade deadline.
Yeah, I think that makes sense then.
All right, so let's wrap this. Let's bring it all back to OKC.
For sure.
Yeah.
Here's my
Yeah,
opinion.
I'm going to stop sharing this.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Here's my opinion. I think there's 4 teams in the West that can compete to get to the championship. I think it's OKC. I think LA, if healthy, they could. LA Lakers. I think Dallas. I'm currently watching Dallas put the absolute beat down on Boston in Boston right now, and another good game for Max Christie to watch out for. So, and they don't have AD or Lively, so I think Dallas, and I think the LA Clippers are in that conversation as well. I know they got smacked by the Lakers, but I mean, they made some decent moves in this trade deadline, and I think the East kind of stays as is. I think it's Boston, I think it's New York, and I think Cleveland is like the hoax team. I think Milwaukee screwed themselves into having any chance. So I think you got 4 teams in the West and 3 on the East, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there. I mean, I really think despite everyone being upset that we didn't trade for Cam Johnson and all this, I really like what we did. I mean, I think we did good at just holding steady and just understanding that Chet's coming back and then getting AJ signed on to that 2 year. I mean, I just think Presti did what he does, and that's the right thing. I mean, he did what mattered and he got it done. We didn't want to see Daniel necessarily waived, but it made sense. I mean, it does make sense, and it makes room for us to bring back Brandon Carlson, which is something that the fans love. But overall, I'm not upset at all. I think Presti did great here. I keep seeing the joke that OKC got a 7 foot sharpshooter at the trade deadline. I mean,
Do you
I
have
just think
a
that's funny.
do you have a grade for OKC?
I mean, I'd probably give us an A minus. I mean, just did what we needed to do, got out of there, did fine, made room for our guy. I mean, in terms of like flashiness, obviously a low grade. We didn't do much, but that's the thing. We didn't really need to do much. We've discussed these trade targets, but we also in other episodes have kept saying if our bench guys can play the way they're capable, we do not need to make a trade. And that's what Presti clearly thinks. I mean, Presti's being Presti's being careful. He's being smart. He doesn't want to shake up this team. We're 40-9. I mean, we just talked about this. Hitting 40 wins before 10 is crazy. Before 10 losses is crazy. Like Presti just doesn't see a reason to shake that up, and I'm all with him. I agree.
I think my grading would be an A. Um, Yeah, I think bringing AJ Mitchell and locking him in for the future is really good. And Carlson back on a two-way, I think that's pretty underrated. Um, and then getting a second round pick for free, and then trading for that second round pick as well. I think he did everything he needed to do. What I'm giving the A because he inquired about Cam Johnson, but then withdrew when he realized the price. So he didn't. Some people would give him a lower grade because he didn't go and get Cam Johnson, but I'm happy he didn't because he didn't give up Wiggins, Joe. He didn't mess his team up, and like you were saying, we're 40-9, we're really good. We just got Shet back. That's the biggest acquisition we could have got. So I'm just excited.
Absolutely.
Sever.
I'll give this trade deadline like a B in my opinion. I still think there was a move to be had here. Like we're kind of on the precipice of contending, so I feel like you scared money. You can't have scared money in these types of situations, and it feels like we kind of did in this situation. I know he's thinking long term. He picked up some picks and stuff, but there's a lot of teams making moves out here. We got the Lakers making moves, Clippers making moves, Nuggets didn't make any moves. Grizzlies are kind of figuring things out on their end. I don't see them really contending with us, but there's a couple teams that are really targeting the type of roster we have. And I feel like we should have been a little bit more diligent in seeing that happen. And then, we still had 24 hours to react to a couple of these trades to still make something happen, in my opinion. So that's where, he fell kind of a grade below because before the Lakers getting the center and maybe before Sacramento getting a center or Dallas Mavericks trying to, beef up their roster, just in general, we should have some depth in the front court because teams are clearly targeting us in that sense.
Yeah, I'm going to say I was going to go B as well, but I'm going to say A. I think, like Jack said, he did inquire about Cam Johnson. Saw the price was too high, pulled out. I think that giving this roster what we have right now, this season to try and go win it is a very smart idea because we do have the capital and the options to, in the off season, if it didn't work out this year, to keep building, right? So I'm happy he didn't force it this year. I'm hoping that from what my thought process was to get another scorer, I'm hoping that doesn't bite us in the end. But you know what? If it does, we've seen this roster go 2 times now. Well, technically, this roster alone hasn't. Anyway, yeah, this roster plus Hartenstein has gone once, but this will be our second year in the playoffs, and we'll know what we need in this offseason if it doesn't work out. So I'll still give him an A because, you know what, like keeping this team together is important this year.
I agree for sure.
I still give us about like a 75% chance of really making the finals with kind of where we stand right now. I just think when it comes to a finals matchup, whether it's going to be the Celtics or the Cavs are kind of where I'm at is that's going to be a very 50-50 battle. And I don't mind stacking the chips in our favor in terms of some talent or some assurance. And right now I'm really feeling 50-50. If we had to battle either of those teams, like it can come down to just a couple plays. And I feel like that's what it's going to really come down to.
So
good point.
I was leaning towards that way this whole week. But I realized I think this team right now is good enough to get out of the West.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I think that with a healthy Chet and a healthy Hartenstein, I think we clear Cleveland out pretty easily. I don't want to make it sound like Cleveland's a bad team, but our guards would absolutely dominate theirs, and I think our bigs will honestly even out, if not be better than theirs. So I think Cleveland's not a problem. Like I said, I'm not really.
What do you think about the Boston matchup? That's the one I'm really thinking about.
Yeah, so I was just about to get to the Boston matchup. Boston, from what I'm seeing from them this year, is a team that is relying on making 33s a game. They shoot so many, and you see in these big games, you saw against OKC, you're seeing right now against Dallas, you've seen in a few other big games when they play good teams, and their three-point shot is not falling. they are not the same team as last year. Like in the OKC game, we kind of were the only team to run them off the 3-point line, and they looked lost in that second half, like really bad, and they were a fully healthy team there. So unless they change it up, I like OKC in that matchup. I do think we match up pretty well with them. They also match up well with us, but I got to take the best player on the court at all times, and we have them. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do give a little bit of credit overall to Boston just having that championship DNA. They just pulled it off. I mean, that's the kind of team that rises to the occasion, especially once it comes playoffs times. I think they'll just really step up their overall play and start being more consistent. However, I just think we're too good, really. I think we're too deep. There's no team that has the different options of lineups like we do. It's insane. I've never seen a team like this.
Boston ran into a Dallas team last year where they were able to attack Luka and Kyrie offensively. They won't have that privilege against us.
Not at all.
And
No.
I don't think they're as good as they were last year. And a huge thing, I was actually talking to my buddy yesterday. If Boston doesn't have Derek White putting up like 20 points a game for them, they're screwed. Because if Derek White never turned into this demon, they would not be this number one seed. I'll tell you that much. Yes, I honestly like our chances against both teams. I do.
Yeah.
Not biased either. I'll tell you if we're gonna lose, but I don't think so.
Fair enough, for sure. Okay, well, I think we can go ahead and end off a little bit of a longer episode here. We kind of went over, but there was a lot of trades to talk about. But as always, if you guys have any other comments or your own thoughts about a certain trade, definitely leave it down below, either on this episode on YouTube, Spotify, clips on TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Just check out socials. Feel free to interact, and we'll try to get back to you right away. But as always, we really appreciate you guys listening, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.
And thunder up, baby! Let's go!
Let's go.